Most Americans are largely unaware of what their local government does. In this video, we are going to tell you what a state representative is, why they are important, and at the end, we'll reveal why a state rep has one of the best jobs in the world.
A state rep is very local. So each representative has about 20,000 constituents. I think I have a little more than that. Um, During the redistricting, I think my district got stuffed with a few more people, which is great. But I can almost know everybody in my district. I can almost knock every door in my district. I feel like as a House representative, it is like our community, and I really like that about it. The Senate is 100,000 people. It's multiple towns. You are still up for reelection every 2 years, and it's a job that's much more sort of untenable. As a House member, we sit on 3 committees, which means you have to really dive deep into the policy of those 3 committees. When you are a senator, you sit on at least 6 committees, which I have to say is sort of impossible to really be in the weeds of what is happening in each of your committees. And if you're in the majority party, you're also a chair. And once you are a committee chair, that really is a huge difference in the workload. And so to be a committee chair and then also on 6 committees is sort of, um, it was less appealing to me because I really liked to be in the weeds. I really like to be on the wonky side of the policy. And so the House felt like a nice fit for me.
Something else some of my classmates were wondering was, how do you decide what policies to support based on public opinion?
Sure. So the question about how we prioritize which bills, like for me personally to put forward, there will be a subset of issues like I personally care about, and I will put those in. And then the vast majority of the bills that I'll put forward are things I hear from our community that are really important to them and that they want me to tackle in the legislature. So that's the largest bulk. And often, there's a lot of intersection of those two things. For example, I've spent the past 2 years trying to reform our school lockdown drills. And that is something I also hear from the community they care a lot about. But something I've cared about that I hear a little less about from our community is getting Medicaid coverage for lactation consultants for new moms. And that's likely because we're disproportionately a community on private health insurance where it's covered. But it's a thing I feel really passionately about. And so I've also been working on that for several years.
Why do you think your role is so important and in connecting with people, and how is the state government important in your eyes?
I
And
love that because as you probably heard me say, state government is often the forgotten middle child of government. All of our news is national. Generally, people know what's happening in their schools, their property taxes, and their roads. But the state legislature really is the bulk of the laws that impact our lives, especially since our Congress in Washington has gotten less and less able to really get things done for us. So we've also heard, I think, more maybe than ever over the past especially 4 years, about sending things back to the states. So specifically reproductive rights. That's something that should be regulated by the states. Well, what that means are state legislatures get to decide what the citizens of that state's right will be within the jurisdiction of that issue. So here in Connecticut, we have protected women's access to reproductive rights up to viability. And, that doesn't protect us if there's a national ban on abortion, but it does protect women in this era of uncertainty. Similarly, gun violence prevention laws, safe storage, red flags, background checks, all of those things are regulated at a state level because we have not been able to have our federal government take action on this issue. So those are two, I think, really big examples. Another one that maybe is a little less glamorous for students, but is super important are the ways in which we allocate our Medicaid dollars. So Medicaid dollars are 50% federal dollars, 50% state dollars on average, that's the breakdown, that are available for individuals, often children, but low income and disabled folks who qualify for Medicaid health insurance and your access to healthcare, which is essential for how you live your life. And some states have a very slim program, and we have a really robust program here in Connecticut.
how much is our daily life even like affected by more local government as in contrast to like Congress or even the presidency.
Yeah, I would say the vast majority is actually state laws. So one of the things I hear about all the time are unsafe driving on 95 in the mirror. And we've passed things like what's called Vision Zero, which is a model taken up in Europe that we're trying to adopt here to achieve zero road fatalities, I think, by 2040. And it's about creating infrastructure that promotes road safety. So having spaces that allow for pedestrians and cyclists, having infrastructure in your roads that require traffic calming and slowing down, more roundabouts rather than just intersections, things like that. Similarly, and especially for an interstate, having speed cameras, which we have allowed in Connecticut. We did a pilot for construction zones and it was very successful. So we're expanding speed cameras, more classes of state troopers to have a better enforcement. There's also things about it, the ways in which our cars are now designed that make them like faster, more distracting, and they're by and large larger. So if you hit a pedestrian is much less likely to survive that crash than when we had smaller cars. And some of the car design things are better negotiated at the federal level than state by state. But if you're in a state like California, you have a lot of power because you have a lot of market share. So when California adopts new standards, it can shift manufacturing because they can't have their manufacturing out of sync with what California allows to be sold in their state. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So they just updated some food safety standards for California, and that should actually shift, I would think, food production, like banning red dyes, things we know that are not healthy, things that also Europe does not allow. California's taken action on that, which I think is very exciting. When you're a small state like Connecticut, it's harder to move markets in that way. You just like won't have Doritos anymore.
This question kind of comes from Will. He asked, how do you communicate with constituents and how do you make sure to know what's happening in the district?
That's a great question. So generally, I get many, many emails every day, and I personally respond to every email I get. I send out a weekly new email newsletter. I have a few thousand people, I think, on my, which is in, I told you I have 20,000 people on my district. So let's say, 2/3 of those are adults with an email address. So it's a small fraction, but I do my best. I will occasionally publish things on issues that are really important to the district. And then a lot of I also have social media accounts to try to reach more people there. And then a lot of it is just showing up at events and places and connecting with people in person.
What is your favorite part about being a state rep?
Oh, I love this job. I feel like the luckiest person in the world. This is the greatest job. I get to meet new people all the time, every day. And I always am saying, one, meeting people in person will restore your faith in humanity because people are really nice and smart and engaging. And also, here in this community, we are so lucky. We have countless, like, brilliant people who do very cool, meaningful work and are contributing to our community and our state and our society in all sorts of ways you have no idea about until they come forward and they say, hey, actually, you do work in this set. And either I want to make sure you know about it because I want to partner in some other way, or we're applying for this state grant and, can you help connect me? Or I'm struggling with this permit process, things like that. But it's great. And then every day is different because I am constantly learning about just the widest range of issues you can imagine, from breastfeeding to traffic calming to the siting council and energy policy and monopoles. Like every day is different, but it's fantastic. And I love it. And I feel so lucky to do it.
Curious about other roles you might not know about in government? Check out our video on the National Archives and Records Administration, located in Washington, D.C., which unveils the meticulous curation of pivotal documents like the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights.